There was a time when I would see children who were obese, overweight. I would feel something within me, but I'll shut it down really fast because I thought, how dare you judge a child for their weight?
But without a doubt, we are in the middle of a global health crisis and junk pandemic. In 2020, the World Health Organization, WHO, labeled childhood obesity an epidemic and one of the most serious public health challenges of the 21st century.
What's the impact of poor diet on the growth of children?
Visit the hospital, visit the clinic. We have a lot of children coming down with type 2 diabetes.
A 2023 study by the WHO found a global rise in childhood overweight and obesity, affecting over 39 million children under 5, and given the current trends, the World Obesity Foundation's World Obesity Atlas in 2023 predicts that obesity figures from 2020 will more than double 10 years from now.
So over the last 3 generations, we've actually seen a big decline in our children's health. We have compromised our children's health over convenience. Manufacturers of food packets and processed foods have convinced us that actually they can do a better job than we can to feed our children. Nothing is further from the truth.
But if there's one thing I've learned as a clinician and as a parent, is that you want to make the hard choices now so that your children will not blame you as adults when sickness and illness force them to make those choices later.
What do you consider junk food?
Junk food is a food that makes you fat and makes you sometimes short. Junk food means being unhealthy of the food you eat. Junk food is the food that they add preservatives to keep it fresh for a long time. Junk food means to me that the food that doesn't have all the classes of food.
Dear parent, is there death in your pot? Because with every food choice, we are either setting up our children for wellness or sickness. It's time to save our children. Isaiah 49:25b, for I will fight those who fight you, and I will save your children. Why are we vocal about this? Why are we sounding the alarm? Recent data from UNICEF reports that around 45% of deaths among children under 5 years of age are linked to malnutrition, and Nigeria has the second highest burden of stunted children in the world. But did you know that a child can be overweight or obese and yet malnourished? Let's hear from Kenny Ebele, a registered dietitian and pediatric nutritionist.
Back then, undernutrition was really common in Nigeria. Like, it used to be the major form of malnutrition among Nigerian children. But these days, we have overnutrition, we have micronutrient deficiencies. Overnutrition in form of obesity. Children are getting obese.
Dr. Babayemi Oshinaike, senior consultant pediatrician at Luth, has this to add.
Let me start by saying very early that when we hear the phrase poor diet, it's so easy to think of being undernourished. But poor diet also would encompass the intake of a large quantity of junk, and both extremes would be what we are considering as poor diet.
Malnutrition is no longer just about low-income families, but it's also now about more money and spending it on all the wrong foods. And what is the growing impact of this on our precious children and their health?
Just because you are not seeing the immediate effects of loading up your kids on junks now doesn't mean nothing is happening to them.
Food matters. Healthy food matters. If we're going to avoid weak and compromised immune system in our children, healthy food matters.
There are immediate signs of malnutrition and there are future effects of malnutrition. Going back to the issue of recurring cold and cough, because this is very common, we see this a lot. In fact, most parents don't even visit the clinics anymore to get me. They know what to give, they don't know what to offer. And all these things are pointing to the fact that their immune system is low. Their immunity is really, really low. Their immune system is getting weakened. And this is pointing to the fact that they are not getting enough nutrients like iron. They're not getting enough nutrients like zinc. They're not getting enough nutrients like choline. They're not getting enough nutrients like vitamin B12. We can continue to name them.
And beyond their bodies, poor diet also affects their minds and impacts their learning both at school and in religious institutions.
These days, children are losing concentration easily. Like you see Sunday school teachers, you see school teachers complaining to parents, oh, it's not that your child is not good, it's not that your child is not brilliant, but most times she loses concentration easily. You can point this to their diet.
The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reports that children who are malnourished or have inadequate diets are more likely to experience problems with concentration, memory, and overall academic performance. Dumebi Ehigiato, an educator with over 15 years of classroom experience, buttresses this submission.
Children from homes where healthy eating lifestyles have been embraced, they do better in the classroom. They have better grades, higher scores, more involved, like I said. They are able to learn effectively throughout the school day.
The truth is, we have a junk pandemic on our hands, and we need everyone, parents, teachers, doctors, religious organizations, and the society at large to fight this monster that is robbing our children of a healthy childhood and sickness-free adulthood.
The fact is, our kids' health is rapidly declining. More kids now than ever are dealing with eczema, asthma, hay fever, atopic conditions, allergies, diabetes, obesity, and behavioral disorders like ADHD, OCD, autism.
Visit the hospital, visit the clinic. We have a lot of children coming down with type 2 diabetes. We used to know type 2 diabetes as a disease for adults, but right now children are coming down with type 2 diabetes.
But what is the cause of all these? Hear what Dr. Babayemi Oshinaike has to say.
One of the things we've noticed over the last couple of years is that there is an increase in non-communicable problems, especially problems with weight. So obesity, for example, is a major health challenge in children that is on the upward swing. And this is directly related to the type of diet, is related to the unhealthy lifestyle that our children are being brought up in now. Exposure unnecessarily to junk, unbalanced diets, reduction in physical activity, so they don't even get to burn the unnecessary calorie they accumulate from all of these unhealthy diets as well.
How was it in the past? How did our parents navigate this healthy eating and lifestyle business?
Growing up, my parents actually were very big on food. And from very early on, I knew that if you didn't have any need going to the hospital, you could actually get, better just doing one or two things at home, which included sleep and good food. So that has actually kind of
molded and modified my lifestyle growing up and into marriage and raising children.
So the system is broken. It's not working. Our parents and our grandparents didn't have to deal with the health issues we have to deal with as parents for our children.
It is indeed heartbreaking. Some of the most devastating yet avoidable health challenges we will be setting up our children for if today they are being fed to fail.
Parents want their children to do well. Parents want their children to thrive. Parents want their children to be successful. Parents want their children to be happy, energetic, involved.
But wait, don't fall for this mistake that many parents make when it comes to feeding their children, especially with how busy life can get.
Parents, as it were, try to overcompensate in terms of what they give the children. It's almost as though there is a guilt consciousness of being absentee parents these days, and so we think that we need to throw the children literally into the river of food, and so we indulge them. Mommy cannot have this, daddy cannot have this, and because we really have a guilt consciousness that we haven't been there for them as we should be, we literally just allow them, oh yeah, you can have this, and it's almost as though we are just trying to do penance emotionally.
Oh yes, we must save our children. It is a battle we are winning, and we need as many hands on deck as we can gather.
Now, when it comes to influencers on child nutrition, there's a lot of focus on the home. However, there are two levels of influencers that I want to spotlight, even with the Wellness Champion book launch, book series, and all. And that is one, the educators in schools.
But how do we equip our educators to ensure that they create the most conducive atmosphere for any policy that supports healthy eating to thrive?
I think it's important that you carry every member of your school community along, carry all the stakeholders along, let them know the why. Why are we enforcing this policy in our school community?
A question every parent should also be asking themselves as they pack those beautiful lunch boxes for their kids.
Just ask yourself, why am I putting what I'm putting in my kids' lunch boxes? And then the schools can actually start to insist that, hey, we don't want junk in my school. There are schools in Nigeria that have taken up this challenge, and they have such fantastic testimonies on that. Now, the schools can also educate the children on how to feed themselves better, eat better, and our children can actually take that knowledge home, just in case mommy and daddy don't know yet.
And these educators must also practice what they preach. Let the children see their teachers eating healthy too. A health article from the government of South Australia has this recommendation. Schools and teachers can model healthy eating and being active at school by packing a healthy lunch and taking the time to eat it, providing healthy snacks at school and staff functions, and using non-food rewards, pencils, skipping ropes perhaps, instead of lollies and sweets. Hear Ifeyiwa Omesiete, the kid nutritionist, on that.
Once the unhealthy options are out of the house, even when they see it outside, they are less likely to pester you to buy it because you've already flipped the script and you've already made food fun.
Now, there's another level of influencers that we don't talk about enough, and that is the religious institutions. As a Christian, I like to talk about the church. I'm here for divine health. I remember that my kids were taught in church one time, like 2 years ago, and they were told, yes, so it's okay to keep praying, but if you keep eating junk, the sickness is most likely going to come. That message 2 years ago was so powerful to them that even though we eat mostly clean in my home, they've never forgotten it. Because yes, we're going to pray, but we're going to feed and nourish our bodies better.
So, How do we ensure that these children joyfully comply with all our healthy eating efforts and interventions?
It's amazing. You also want the children to know how to eat healthy. You want them to know why it's good for their body.
We're not just feeding our children healthy, we're also educating them on why this is important. We don't just want them to know in their heads, we want them to know in their hearts.
Yes, we want them to know in their hearts so that even when they leave the home, they never forget it. Like Toyin Dosumu has to say here.
I also now needed to teach them so that as they grew, they could now make decisions for themselves. I will invite them, we'll all cook together, and then we'll be talking about the veggies, we'll be talking about the whatever ingredient I was going to use.
So moms, don't just feed them, involve them in the process and educate them. And hey, don't be boring.
So make sure anything that you're offering is going to be vibrant, exciting, and get them involved in the process. Hey, it's their food, so I'm sure they're going to want to make it and they're going to love eating it as well.
Now, do I smell an elephant in the room? Are you thinking this thought too?
So another thing that comes up when we talk healthy eating is people usually say, oh, it's too expensive. Healthy eating is expensive. But is it?
It's not really about the finances, it is about the knowledge.
Let me tell you what's expensive. Sickness is expensive. Missing work because you have to take a child to the hospital is expensive. Your children missing school because they're ill is expensive. Sleepless nights, oh my goodness, can't even put a cost on that.
No wonder the American Health Association says that eating well can benefit both your health and your bank account. A poor diet can also hurt your pocket. Our registered dietitian, Kendi, agrees.
Most times I tell parents that when you nourish your children right, in fact, you are saving about 50 to 70% of money you are spending on hospital runs and on medication. You are saving them for something better.
Now, I know a lot of mums are dealing with children with fussy eating and cravings for sugar and anything white.
What is the solution? What can we then do?
Healthy eating starts with the mind.
Dear parents, it is time to think differently about healthy eating.
When we're thinking healthy, most of the time we're thinking about veggies only. Who has time to cut carrots? Who has time to prepare all the bell peppers and all of that? But you see, don't think that it has to be so elaborate. It can be elaborate. I'm not saying that that is wrong. But you can also do simple things that will give your child extra nutrition.
Zina, what do you have to tell anybody that's always eating junk?
Junk food is not good. Reduce how much you are taking junk or control the kind of food that you eat. I say that if you eat too much junk food, you go short and no one wants to be short, and you can go fat, and nobody wants to be fat. Because sometimes you get bullied for being fat. Stop eating junk food and reduce your junk.
Time invested in cooking healthy food for our precious children is always going to be so worth it for their health and your pocket, because while convenience foods may be convenient in the short run, it's really inconveniencing in the long run. Try swapping processed for homemade and see what happens at home. Hear Sharon's personal testimony.
I decided, and I wasn't in the space of nutrition or health coaching, I decided to do a two-week detox, to take away the convenience foods and to bring in more fruit and vegetables and whole foods, proper protein, real meat, not the processed stuff.
And Oyinye Obiagele, who actually reversed autism with food and a nutrition protocol used as medicine.
once I removed everything that was processed in my children's diets, I indeed started to see the resemblance of what I call healing.
And those processed foods, can we even really call them food? Here, Toyin.
Come to know that there are some things that are not food, they're simply stomach fillers. And truth is, we shouldn't be giving our children those things often. Stick to food, real food.
Now, this is what real food looks like.
The more food you can make at home with real ingredients, fruit, vegetables, meat, anything that's not in a packet, you are already doing so much good for your family and for your children's health.
Here's a thought and a challenge. How about we decide to take away processed foods from our homes and, like Ify says, flip the script?
Once the unhealthy options are out of the house, even when they see it outside, they are less likely to pester you to buy it because you've already flipped the script and you've already made food fun.
And where we have to use food as medicine literally, hear what Oyinye has to say.
As a mom who is working and trying everything within your means to help your child become more functional, you are going to have to be a lot more intentional than the ordinary.
And for every mom,
make mealtime fun. Yes, you can have special meal days like special homemade pizza days or even special burger days. You can have tasting parties where you make sample of meals you want them to try and offer it to them and get their feedback.
Now, if you're thinking this is hard work, Eziaha agrees with you. And Ifeyiwa also offers some hope.
Listen to me. Being a parent is hard work. We're not going to quote it. You are going to have to put in the work.
Remember, changes do not happen overnight, and eating healthy is not a competition that we're trying to win. It's about making small but sustainable changes that your children are going to be grateful for now, tomorrow, and always in the future as adults.
Now, we want to invite you to the Save Our Children Global Wellness Revival and Wellness Champions book launch. But first, hear what Damilola Akingbola has to say about the host and author, Eziaha Bolaji-Olojo.
As a book launch team lead and a proud mom, I've been privileged to know Coach E now for a couple of years, and my journey with her has been nothing short of transformative, especially when it comes to choosing healthy options for my family and I. Have a commitment to serving our family healthy food options has kind of caused me to ask myself, why not? Like, why am I not doing this? And one thing Coach E really helps you ask yourself is why. Society has conditioned us as moms to seek convenience, to think that junk food is wealthy people's food. When you think about noodles and hot dog, just kind of make you feel like, oh, this is the kind of food you're giving your kids. But then she makes me have why not? And then I realized that this is a conditioning that we have in society and it's not necessarily healthy. And so in asking why not, I was able to eliminate a lot of this food in my family, and I see the difference. I see how much more attentive my child is. I see that I'm also helping her make decisions that she doesn't make decisions on habits that she doesn't have to pray away in the future. I'm helping her grow into an adult that she can be proud of. And it's so beautiful to see how watching one woman can just help me make this successive set of decisions that has now transformed my own family life as well. And that's why when I was called to be on the book launch team, I'm like, well, yes, like everybody in the world has to know this. If by watching you, my life has changed so much like this, that everybody else needs to know. Because the Wellness Champions book is not just a book. It is a freedom for every parent on the face of the earth. It is that thing that we need that helps us make the better decisions so that our children can end up being adults who don't have to pray certain habits away, so that we can guide them to be the person that God destined them to be. And I personally believe in this project, not because it has personally elevated my life, my family. It has changed the way I do things, and I believe that this fire needs to be ignited in every home across the globe. The Wellness Champions book is not just a book, it is a movement.
As we get set for the Wellness Champions book launch at the Muson Center, June 29, 2024, you'll be hearing from amazing men and women. Some moms have actually conquered life-threatening diseases with their diets. You are going to be hearing from the professionals, pediatric consultants, pediatric dietitian, nutritionists. You are going to be hearing from all of them. You're going to be hearing from educators. I'll see you at the Wellness Champions book launch. God bless you.
See you there! Documentary was too short for you? No worries. We have some of the clips that didn't make the cut and combined them into a video for you.
What's the impact of poor diet on the growth of children? And let me start by saying very early that when we hear the phrase poor diet, it's so easy to think of being undernourished, and that is correct to some extent. But poor diet also would encompass the intake of a large quantity of junk and non-balanced diet as well. So both extremes would be what we are considering as poor diet. Clearly, if you do not have enough intake, that will definitely affect the trajectory of the growth of the child. We know from medical science that the first 3 years, in fact the first 2 years of the life of the child is crucial, especially in time for the development of the brain of the child. And so you can imagine that at that stage of life, if the diet is inadequate, either in terms of the size or the quantity, or in terms of the composition, the mental development of that child would definitely be impacted. We have a saying in emergency medicine that the best and the first step towards handling an emergency is emergency preparedness. So you must be prepared. You must have an idea of what emergencies to expect and so generally in regarding health and regarding the care of the health of your child, prevention would always be the best approach, would always be the cheapest approach to the care.
In creating an optimum environment for your healthy eating strategies or interventions to work, I think it's important that you carry every member of your school community along, carry all the stakeholders along, let them know the why. Why are we enforcing this policy in our school community? And I like to link my why to the love parents have for their children. Parents want their children to do well. Parents want their children to thrive. Parents want their children to be successful. Parents want their children to be happy, energetic, involved. All those outcomes are linked to the why of our food policy, and everything falls into place seamlessly, because which parent doesn't want the best for his or her child?
I'm going to give you 3 practical ways that are foolproof and very efficient to ensure that your children are going to be eating those healthy options you're going to be offering. Number 1, make mealtime fun. Yes, you can have special meal days like special homemade pizza days or even special burger days. You can have tasting parties where you make sample of meals you want them to try and offer it to them and get their feedback. You can use cookie cutters and shape cutters to make fun shapes for pancakes and waffles or even cookies. And the best thing I do want you to do is never make the meals boring. Children eat with their eyes, but they also eat with their mouth. They love things that taste good. So make sure anything that you're offering is going to be vibrant, exciting, and get them involved in the process. Hey, it's their food, so I'm sure they're going to want to make it and they're going to love eating it as well.
Just because you are not seeing the immediate effects of loading up your kids on junks now doesn't mean nothing is happening to them. I tell you, internally, something is happening. Their organs, their brain, their kidney, talk about their kidney, talk about their liver, talk about their pancreas, talk about their eyes. Literally everything in their body is being affected. Talk about their feet. But the thing is, you are not seeing, you might not be seeing them now. All these are just setting up the stage for cardiovascular disease later in the future. And these cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and different forms of diseases are no longer waiting to the future. They are starting now. We need to realize that. Visit the hospital, visit the clinic. We have a lot of children coming down with type 2 diabetes. We used to know type 2 diabetes as a disease for adults. But right now, children are coming down with type 2 diabetes. Our locally grown foods contain all these essential nutrients. We have our fish, we have our beef, we have our chicken, we have our eggs that can supply them with iron. We have our seeds and nuts that can supply them with iron. We have a lot of things in our environment that we can actually supply them with iron. So it's not even really about the matter of finances most times. It's about the knowledge.
Growing up, my parents actually were very big on food. And from very early on, I knew that if you didn't have any need going to the hospital, you could actually get, better just doing one or two things at home, which included sleep and good food. So that has actually kind of molded and modified my lifestyle growing up and, into marriage and raising children. So when the issue started, or when the challenge started, and of course, the first mishap happened in the hospital, I definitely knew that the conventional medicine wasn't going to give me the results that I was looking for. So given that on one hand and the way I was raised on another, I definitely knew that I needed to do something alternative. As a mom who is working and trying everything within your means to help your child become more functional, you are going to have to be a lot more intentional than the ordinary. There must be a fierce level of intentionality towards your goal and towards what you're looking to achieve. You must become a force of nature. What does that mean? It means that you must be willing to defy the odds. You must be willing to go the extra mile. You must be willing to try new things.
Don't think that it has to be so elaborate. It can be elaborate. I'm not saying that that is wrong, but you can also do simple things that will give your child extra nutrition. Make the meals that you're giving them particularly healthy and different from instant that we're all used to. If we're using the basic CPF formula, for instance, every meal should have carbohydrates, proteins, fat, vitamins, minerals, and water. Then you can create something very simple but very nutritious. Take, for instance, a peanut butter sandwich. Your bread is your carb, the nuts in it are your protein, and even the nut butter. So if you're giving it as nut butter, there's the oil that granite produces that has now become your fat. And you pair that with apples or you pair that with carrots and you give the child water. You've sacrificed your child's health. You took what was instant and available. You gave it to the child, but it contained absolutely nothing. And if you are taking 5 minutes of your time and you are taking 2 slices of bread and you had slathered it with your peanut butter, and you are giving a child an apple from the fridge that you have at home, you have given the child something healthier instead. You have actually fulfilled that your simple CPF formula. So let's not look at it that healthy has to be elaborate. Healthy can be simple. And when it is elaborate, sacrifice your time. There's nothing that is important that does not come at a cost.
So over the last 3 generations, we've actually seen a big decline in our children's health. We have compromised our children's health over convenience. Manufacturers of food packets and processed foods have convinced us that actually they can do a better job than we can to feed our children. Nothing is further from the truth. So while it's convenient because we all lead such incredibly busy lives, it's convenient to get help with the processed foods. It's convenient to numb a symptom with medication, but we are paying a very, very high price with that, and that is our health. The fact is, our kids' health is rapidly declining. More kids now than ever are dealing with eczema, asthma, hay fever, atopic conditions, allergies, diabetes, obesity, and behavioral disorders like ADHD, OCD, autism. There's an epidemic of children in massive health decline. So the system is broken. It's not working. Our parents and our grandparents didn't have to deal with the health issues we have to deal with as parents for our children. And even for mums and dads, their health is declining too. Diabetes, liver issues, heart disease, fatigue, depression, anxiety. These symptoms are very common, but they're not normal. And so instead of focusing on all these things separately, the one thing we should be really focusing on is our gut health and reducing inflammation in the body. When we reduce inflammation and the inflammation dials down, the body is designed to thrive. And when that inflammation comes down, we start feeling better because the body can actually heal itself. The incredible thing about the bacteria in our gut is we can actually transform it in just 2 weeks' time. So within 2 weeks of applying good nutrition and home-cooked meals, we can actually feel better. It's really, really powerful. It's really exciting.
Society has conditioned us as moms to seek convenience, to think that junk food is wealthy people's food. When you think about noodles and hot dog, it just kind of make you feel like, oh, this is the kind of food you give your kids. But then she makes me have why not? And then I realized that this is a conditioning that we have in society, and it's not necessarily healthy. And so in asking why not, I was able to eliminate a lot of this food in my family, and I see the difference. I see how much more attentive my child is. I see that I'm also helping her make decisions that she doesn't make decisions on habits that she doesn't have to pray away in the future. I'm helping her grow into an adult that she can be proud of. And it's so beautiful to see how watching one woman can just help me make this successive set of decisions that has now transformed my own family life as well.
I know that change is possible. Listen, prevention is the only medicine that we have. There's nothing better than being proactive because there is a health crisis. Everyone is going to be affected by it if we do not use our food as medicine, especially our children. In my career journey as a health coach, I have coached hundreds of women directly. And I see how hard it can be for lifestyle to change. However, if we catch them young, it would make such a difference. That's why I'm making a lot of noise about child nutrition, about doing better for our children. As a mom of 2, I've learned that I cannot be too careful. Every little thing I have to notice, because if I catch it at the inception, then there's a higher probability that I can kill it before it gets even worse.